Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Create Your Own Reality podcast, where we share quotes, ideas, and stories from a variety of minds in order to encourage, empower, and inspire you all to create a life you love. If this is your first time listening to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're able to take something from this episode to turn your day from good to great. Let's get into it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I am speaking with Zach Hurd. I'm going to have him introduce himself so we can get to know him a little bit better. So, Zacharie, go ahead and give us a little background on yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Zacharie. I grew up doing music for most of my life since I was like 10. Originally, I'm from Haiti. I was adopted when I was younger and brought here to the States. And I've just been kind of trying to find my way ever since. I've had had a pretty unique and interesting life, I would say. Gone through some experiences that I suppose not a lot of people have had the pleasure, I guess you could say, of experiencing.
And that's awesome. I didn't know that actually. When did you come to the States?
So I was adopted. The way, basically, originally, my mom works for a hospital here in my city. And she went on a trip, I think back when she was active in the church or when she used to be Catholic, they went on a trip and they ended up going, when they returned, she said she just felt like she needed to do something. And so she started looking at orphanages and stuff. And I'm sure you can hear the baby in the back. My niece is here. She's kind of cranky today. But it's funny because she was taking a nap and I kept trying to put her down, but she didn't want to get off. But anyways, not to derail the story. My mom, she took a trip and when she came back, she just said her heart was calling her to do something. And so she went, and originally she was just going to adopt one child, and she filled out the paperwork, and then the orphanage called her again. It's hey, there's a second one. So she filled it out again. And then they called her again and said, hey, there's a third one. And so she filled it out again. And so she didn't want to, there was 7 of us in total, but she was only able to take 3, and she took the 3 youngest. So we ended up here.
So how old were you? Were you still a baby when you were adopted? Or?
I was 5. My younger brother, so I was just turning 5. My younger brother was just turning 4, and then my sister was 8 months. So we were all pretty little.
So I know you kind of mentioned you had a background in audio engineering. What kind of got you into that initially?
So I think it all just kind of ties back to coming here to this country. I needed something to, so there was a number of things that happened. I was very rambunctious as a child, I had a lot of anger built in. And so I remember one day my mom sat me down and was like, Zach, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And I was super into the Power Rangers. So I was I want to do karate, so she signed me up for karate and stuff like that. And, I mentioned that she was Catholic, but there was, she kind of got away from the church and got into this faith called the Baha'i faith. And, she brought me up in that. And I remember one day she came home, we had this, how would I explain it? There's a place called Greenacre where basically other youth, other Baha'i youth would get together and people from all over the world would come. And she had gone to this convention thing. And she came back and brought this CD, and it was a hip hop CD of this artist that was just talking about just a lot of stuff that resonated with me. And so I started trying to rap, and I would mimic Eminem. I remember this one time my mom came in my room, she found some sheets. She's like, "Are you swearing in your raps?" It's but they were all stuff that had like Eminem had said, and other artists had said and stuff. And then when she brought home this artist named Badi, he was talking about just being from a different culture, struggling with how to find real relationships with people, and that was the stuff that really resonated with me. And so I started kind of gravitating more towards that side of hip hop. I guess people would call it conscious hip hop. And I decided that was really what I wanted to go to school for, was learning how to mix and master. And because I'd already been writing songs and stuff, and I knew there was a piece that I was missing, and that was it. So
gotcha. So music has kind of always been something that you've been interested in then, I guess, is a kind of fair way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm at a time period in my life where it's a little confusing because like I ended up becoming Muslim. I would say probably 3 years ago, and music is considered haram, which means for like forbidden in Islam, and like it's something I struggle with because it's been such a part of me for so long, but I can also understand why, when you, especially when you look at like the hip hop industry, a lot of the people that they target, like who buys the music, it's usually like teenagers and the youth and things like that. And, when you got these 5-year-old kids talking about WAP and they don't even know what that is, it's like, it says a lot. So,
No, that's definitely understandable for sure. So I mean, I guess just kind of in terms of that, then like, how has that transition been for you? I guess of course, like with music being such a big part of your life, like how has that kind of changed for you in terms of like that religion, just kind of what you're doing now?
yeah, I mean, it's been a wrestle. It's been like I haven't given it up. It's been something that I've been like on the fence about. Because like I think the thing with Islam is if you look at it from the perspective of like the media, you're going to see like a religion that has a lot of rules and a lot of like strictness. But if you're actually in the religion, you're practicing, and a lot of it is just based on your intentions. Because like French Montana is Muslim, and again, when I say this stuff, it's not. I'm not trying to justify, I guess you could say, um, what like the religion has set for a boundary. Or I'm not trying to justify against maybe what the religion has set for boundaries, but like there is this room for intentions. It's interesting. Like I was listening to something on TikTok. Like when I became Muslim, it was very hard for me, like very very hard. But like there was so much stuff that had happened that it was on a spiritual level that like it was impossible. Like if I told you the stuff that at one point I thought I needed to go to the hospital because like it was that intense. Like some of the stuff that I had experienced. Someone that I'd seen on TikTok, and he said like you can drink alcohol, you can do all of these things and still go to whatever like people consider heaven to be, right? And then you could pray 5 times a day, and you can fast and do all the things and still end up in like a dark place. Um, and I like and I'm not saying that to preach. I'm saying that because the whole purpose that he's making is that your intentions. Because, like, let's say you're somebody who's very spiritual and very religious, but you're terrible to your neighbors, right? Or you're abusive to your kids, or you take your car and you drive it through a parking lot full of people. Yeah, you do all of the things that are spiritual, but you're not a good person on the inside. But now let's say you're somebody who struggles with alcohol, but every single time that you get, you're at the food pantry volunteering, or you're sitting with the nursing, like at the nursing home with people who don't have anyone to come visit them, and you're just having conversations with them. So it's about like the weight of who you are as a person, because like there are people who struggle with alcohol, but they're still good people, and then there are people who will give money, but they're doing it on TikTok or on Instagram, and it's a setup. It's not authentic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's definitely like a great just view on that in general. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily think about that kind of stuff on a daily basis. So it's pretty insightful to kind of have that, spin on it as well. Um, I know you said you also run a small business right now. Is that something you're still?
Yeah.
So what is that business?
It's a small business that it's a health and beauty brand. My wife is like really into health and beauty and stuff, and so it's called Exactly Perfect. It's spelled EXZACHLY. Perfect. It's like a spin. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but I just thought it was a I thought it was a cool name. But the primary focus, like the brand image that I'm trying to develop, is like it's okay to like wake up and be like, I want to feel good today. I like, because like when you're in a dark place and you don't want to take care of yourself, right? Like you don't, especially a lot of women, like if they're in a dark place, it's a struggle to wake up, and like for some people even just take a shower, or for some people they wake up and like putting makeup on helps them feel better, or going for a run helps them feel better. It's kind of finding that balance between like, okay, I look good so I can start to feel good. inside. Because sometimes, like when you're in a dark place, just waking up and showering and brushing your teeth, or going for a massage, like those are all things that can kind of pull you out of that place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, just the whole kind of premise behind that. I mean, that is awesome. I mean, what is some advice that you would have for people who are trying to get into the like small business world as well?
Um, I would say, well, a couple of things. So I listen to a lot of like motivational speakers. And the number one theme that I noticed that they tell you is like, I remember specifically Mel Robbins. She was saying like, there's a lot of people who will stand on the edge and they'll watch their friends fly, and then they're wondering why they're not flying. And it's because they're afraid to jump, you know? And that's the thing is, so I also run this like startup live streaming channel where I'm teaching people how to like produce, and it's really focused on mindset. Like all the songs that I write are very mindset driven. They're very I'll pick a particular subject and I'll focus on like, okay, let's produce in this style, and then we're gonna make the song about this. And but I also do these conversations about mindset, and there was a story that I came across about the phoenix that was afraid of his fire. And the story basically goes, there was this phoenix named Geyer, right? And his fire was starting to develop, but every single time it would develop, he'd be so afraid. So he'd like fly out to a puddle of water and he'd dip his wings in, or he'd dip his beaks in, or he would fly, as far as he could to the coldest place, and he just to get the fire to go out, because he was afraid of his purpose, like what a phoenix is supposed to do. And so one day he goes to the elders and he's like, I have come so far, I've developed so much, I don't want to burn. And so the elder says to him, well, then you're not done developing, and so he goes out and he gathers a bunch of twigs, and he goes to the highest nest and he begins setting up a grave for himself. And finally it gets to a point where the fire just ignites. It didn't ask for any permission. It didn't care whether he was ready or not. It just ignited. And, he was screaming, I don't want to burn. But as soon as it finished igniting, he like rushed to the water and he stopped and he looked at himself and he saw these beautiful deep blues and these beautiful oranges. And, he started living in the purpose of being a phoenix instead of watching like all the other phoenix fly. And with that being said, that doesn't mean you're not going to have, like, there are days when I wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what did I get myself into? But isn't that with everything? Like when you get a job and your boss fires you, it's like, what am I going to do? When you first go out and you get your driver's license and people are driving crazy and you're nervous, it's like, oh, like, am I really ready for this? But then 10 years down the road, you're driving more like a maniac than anybody else,
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I mean, shoot, that's I think fear is definitely like the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back, and I think a lot of the times some people don't even realize it, right? Like they have this idea that maybe they've been sitting on for a while, but sometimes life kind of just gets in the way, right? They don't even kind of think about it being like, oh, I'm
Right.
too
Yeah.
scared to start this. It's just like, oh no, like my job is too crazy, or oh no, like I have these other things I have to take care of. Like, what is something, or something you would say, or like any advice that you have to those people that to kind of just get them started? Like, what is something um, you would say to people to just kind of push themselves to take that first step?
I remember the very first business that I did was, I had this individual in my life, and I'll be honest, he probably wasn't the best person to go into business with, just because we were very different people, but he was very motivational. Like he was very good at like, um, like hyping people up to jump, right? To make that jump. And the first thing we did was just create a logo. And I like, it was simple. It was like a $30 logo that we developed on Fiverr. And then that one small step, right? It starts to make it feel real, and for some people that's what it's about. It's just doing something little that makes it feel real. And obviously, like, you can develop a logo and then not do anything with it, right? But now, okay, we developed the logo, and then we went on to the website, right? And then once the website was developed, we would go out door to door knocking. Like, this was scary. We would go out to businesses for, like, I would say 4 or 5 hours a day. And it wasn't until we signed a client for, I would say, I think it was like 2,400, that I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is actually possible. Like, this is a real thing. But I had to do those baby steps. I had to do I had to do the logo. I had to do the websites. Then, I had to sit down and start writing a business plan. And it was all the little steps before I jumped and started going door to door, and when I made that first, I wanted to hang the phone up. I was like, yo, what person is going to sit down with a guy just out of college and talk to him about, like, social media marketing, But it was the first time that I had ever seen, like, checks that big. And I'm not, like, I know there's a lot of gurus out there that'll say buy my course, but, like, I'm being authentic, and I know I'm throwing numbers out there and stuff like that, but it was shocking to me that, like, people, when you sit down and you talk to them and you break down, hey, like, I know you have a lot of word of mouth, but have you ever considered doing this? Because there's so much, like, TikTok alone, you post a video, you can get 500-600 views just organically without having to pay for it. That's 500 or 600 people. And if only, let's say, out of 500 or 600 people, 5 people buy a $50 product, that's $250 right there that you just pocketed, So, I think I just want to add one more thing. One of the biggest things that I had to learn is the reason a lot of people don't start is because they're afraid of no's, right? And here's the thing, like, my sister has a business that she started, and she had priced something, I think, at like 150, and she's like, maybe I should lower my price. And I looked at it, I was like, your price is your price. The reason you're afraid and you want to lower is because you're focused on the people who are going to say no, but you forget we live in a world of 8 point something billion people, like, you go on Amazon and you're willing to buy something for, $300-400, and you're telling me you don't think there's somebody out there that's willing to buy what you have for 150? So it says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is definitely a great perspective. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like everything's kind of like a law of average, right? Like, you're going to have those people that are going to say no. You're going to have those people that are going to say yes, right? I mean, at the end of the day, especially when it comes to just like businesses and the things that you may be offering, it's definitely comes down to, like, the value over cost, right? Like, not everybody is going to see that value, but for the people that do, those are the people that are meant to be in your audience. Those are the people that you're meant to kind of help at the end of the day. Now, what is, like, something you do to kind of keep yourself, not just motivated, but disciplined enough to kind of keep going every day, even when it gets hard?
Reminding myself to get back on the bike when I fall off, because, like, let's be honest, even the people that we watch who give these amazing speeches and say they do this and this every day, like, we live in a culture where that is very easy to sell, but are you there with them watching them do it every single day? It's like the people who promise you that they're going to help you make your first 10,000 when you start up your business. They make more money off of selling their courses than they do the actual business, right? And that's not to discourage people from being disciplined. It's just to remind, like, you are going to have days where you fall off and you don't do anything, right? That's just human nature, But what's more important is, after you fall off, how many times you get back on? Because if you give up, the story only goes one way. He gave up, right? There's no other way that it could go, or she gave up. Like, the pen doesn't keep writing. But if even if it's like 2 weeks and you haven't done anything, if you remind yourself, like, hey, like, I haven't done anything for a while. Like, this is a business that, like, I'm trying to get off the ground. Let me go back to the basics. I've had a lot of times, especially in the Exactly Perfect brand, where I've hit so many walls, and I just did, because I don't do makeup. Like, it's just not my thing, but I picked it because I know it's a big industry, it's growing. And I also believe that, like, mental health is a strong thing. And one of the ways that we can help our mental health is by doing things that make us feel good. For some people, it's makeup. Like, I'm a very creative person. And so I really had to sit there and figure out, like, okay, what can I do to grow my Instagram page and get more people to really, and one of like, I tried a number of different things. I tried like a branding video. You know, I tried um um uh contest campaign. Like I tried a number of different things, you know, and the biggest thing I was running into was marketing. Like I just didn't have the funds to be able to run a lot of ads. And so I really had to figure out ways to kind of use the resources that I have. I said, okay, I have these audio skills. Maybe I can reach out to people who do content videos on makeup, and in return, I can do music and do the audio for their makeup in return for using their content, right? And so, but I had a lot of periods where I just wasn't able to do anything, not because I didn't want to, just because I didn't know what to do next, you know? And sometimes those periods are where we do our best thinking.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's really important too, to kind of just recognize that, like you said, that we are just human. I mean, there are definitely going to be those days where, maybe that we aren't the most productive, but as long as we kind of keep moving towards that goal that we have, or just kind of remembering, why we started what we did in the first place, I think that's always going to help us
Right.
kind of take that next step forward at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on your head. Like a lot of people say, once you have a why, like that's the biggest thing. And your why it can't be like somebody can't give you a why, you know? Like a why for a lot of people, like look at third world countries where people don't have any option but to get up and go get it. Like they don't, you know, you're a mom or you're a dad and you have 3 kids, like I mean, they will stand on the side of the road and sell fruits or sell vegetables or sell, and it's because their why is big. Like, you know, they know what it's like not to eat for 2 or 3 days. I myself, you know, I've had that experience too. I was little, like I was fortunate enough that um it wasn't my entire life, you know. But there's a lot of people who don't get that opportunity. So their why, like it's they don't have to question their why, it's there, you know. There are people who their mom is on the verge of dying and they got to go out and they got to raise X amount of money to help her fight this disease that she has. So they start to go their why. They don't have to question her why, you know. So once you find a why that really, it can't be, nobody can give you a why. Like you have to find the why yourself, and it's a lot easier said than done. But once you identify it, like nothing's gonna stop you if it's important enough.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, your why is I think the most important thing when it comes to anything that you do, right? I mean, whether it's just something simple like a simple 9 to 5 job that you have just to get the money that you need for whatever it may be. I think sometimes people just even underestimate that. I mean, sometimes people just need to start at that very base to kind of work their way up from there, right?
Right. And I want to touch on the 9 to 5 that like you asked me a question about like what do I say to people to help them get started. You were talking about the 9 to 5, which is like the 40-hour work week. And the way I've always looked at things is whether I put 40 hours to giving somebody else something that's helping them build what they want, or, you know, I take even 10 hours a week to work at what I want. Eventually it's gonna, you know, once I start putting 40 hours into what I want, it's the same thing. You know, it's just one is more safe because you know you got a paycheck every single day. You know, if you mess up badly, somebody's not going to sue you or that. But it also only keeps you in that safe realm. You know, like the other one off, if if you really go at it, can offer you unlimited freedom, and there's no ceiling to what you could make. When you go to your job, like there's a ceiling. Your boss will only pay you if he likes you enough to give you more money. And it like they could say you could say if you work hard enough, but I do think that like your boss does have to like you to some degree to offer you more money, you know? Whereas if you go out and you get it on your own, if one person doesn't like you, there's 10 others that may, you know, who might not even know you, but they like what you're selling and they like why you're selling it.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like, the whole like 9 to 5 thing kind of goes back to, I mean, just the idea of like fear, right? I mean, when it comes to 9 to 5, that's security and stability for a lot of people. most of the time they're not thinking about the possibility of, oh, like I can get laid off, or oh, I can, like there are certain caps and ceilings. Like most people don't think about that. They just kind of think of that like safety and security of that paycheck that they're getting every week without necessarily thinking about like the possibilities that building their own business, building their own empire may come with as well.
Right.
I think it's, again, just like that fear of not having that stability that, they feel like they may need in that moment,
Right.
but also not recognizing what that could bring them a year to 5 years from now down the line.
No, I agree, and that's the way, like, I think it goes also back to finding, like, what do you actually love doing? Because like there are so many people that are like, I went to school to be a lawyer, I went to be school but they're miserable at their job. When if they had pursued what they loved, they probably would have made the same amount of money because they would have gotten really good at it. And I truly believe that there is a field for everybody, who has a high enough like level of cognition to be able to follow what it is that they're passionate about. Like there's that argument, passion or security, right? And I'm picking passion every single time. Like I remember when I was younger and I really wanted to get into music. Like my mom, and she loved. I know it was I think it was deeper than just fear. I think like my life is, like I said, my my life is very interesting. But she was like, there's really not that culture. Like there's not a lot of people but I mean, you go down, there's a thriving studio down here where everybody goes to, and it wasn't there 10 years ago when I was younger, but somebody found a need and they develop a skill for that need, and now people go, and like he's charging 70-80 an hour. After 5 hours he's made what, $400, which is good. And if he owns a studio and he rents it out to other engineers, like now he's double tripled his money.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you like touched on another great thing as well. Like I feel like, I don't know if it's just necessarily like our culture or just like the society that we live in right now. It's just like, I feel like so many people are still in that mindset of being just so trained to be like, okay, like once I graduate high school, I have to, go to college, get a degree, and just like move right into the job or career that, obviously went to school for. I feel like it's starting to change now with social media and just like people realizing the possibilities that, just even social media and content creation can kind of bring you, which is good because
Right.
I mean, we've of course been in this whole like, again, just like 9 to 5 mindset for so long. But I think like at the end of the day, like there are still so many people that kind of never figure out what it is that they're really passionate about, like in their life, which is sad. I mean, I feel like I wish that there was something out there that could kind of help people identify that a little bit easier. I feel like for me, like even myself, like I grew up dancing my entire life, went to college for dance, like thought that was something I was always going to do. In my sophomore year, I actually switched my major to film. Like I had taken an elective my freshman year because I just, needed an extra class in my schedule. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting, right? Like not really thinking anything of it. And it just like opened this entire world that I had like never even thought I would be interested in. And it kind of just like changed my whole trajectory, if you will. But I feel like, not enough people like take that chance or like take that risk on themselves really at the end of the day to kind of find what it is that they're really interested in.
It's interesting that you say film because I was actually in LA in April filming I was acting in a short film about this boxer who struggles with like mental health issues, and I played the antagonist that basically like, he had the first short film, he had been training with his coach and was going to go to the Golden Gloves, and then basically just bailed on his coach and checked into a mental health hospital. And because he had been gone for so long, like the coach obviously started looking at developing other people and enter the protagonist. And basically my job is just to remind him that like every single time that he bailed on the coach, but going like touching upon what you were saying, the reason I enjoy acting is because like in middle school I had done theater and stuff, and I think like one of the biggest things that I hate about our culture is people spend so much time in one group, and if this particular group isn't into this thing, like they won't do it. But how many guys out there dancing, they love it and they make good money doing it? How
Yeah.
many people out there are into it's so funny to me that like throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school, like people who do music or people who dance or do theater, like they're nerds, right? Yet we'll
Hmm.
go to the movie theaters and watch these same nerds make the
Yeah.
movies that we love, or produce the songs that we really enjoy. And so I kind of wish that culture would flip, like where more people would be encouraged to like, hey, just because this guy or girl doesn't enjoy this thing doesn't mean you have to like that. There's no law that says you have to follow you or you can't check this out because they don't like it. Like they don't own their earth. They don't own your
Right.
soul. They don't know what's gonna fill it out. And at the end of the day, like if your lights go off, I guarantee you they're not paying the bill for you. Right. So if they're not doing that, why are you letting them like dim the light within you off?
No, 100%. And that's a great point as well. I mean, I know they have that saying, right, that it's like you are most like the five people you spend the most time with.
Mm,
And it's funny, I saw something the other day that it was like if your friends aren't encouraging you to do, like that certain thing, that thing that you're really passionate about or whatever it may be, then I think you need to go find some new friends, right? Like
yeah.
yeah, like if you keep spending time with people that, just like aren't pushing themselves forward or, you know, maybe you're still friends with people like that you were friends with in high school that, of course have just been in your life for a really long time, but just at this point maybe don't necessarily align with the things you're looking to do anymore.
Right.
Like as hard as it may be, like sometimes you might just have to kind of, maybe cut those people out or just find people that are more aligned with the things you're trying to do now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. When I first came here to the States, like I would say up until I graduated college, like I maybe had like, two or three friends. Like this is what's really interesting to me. Like people will come up to me and be like, I would tell them this. I'd be like, I always felt so alone in like elementary school and high because I just didn't have any. I see all these kids go to like their friend's house and stuff like that. And I had like two or three friends that I would like go visit, but I didn't really past a certain point, like especially after high school, I didn't really hang out with anybody. I didn't really have a whole lot of friends. And people would come up to me like, oh, like you seem like you were so popular. But what they didn't understand is like there's a difference between people knowing your name and people knowing what your name means and who you are. Like like not what your name means, but like who you are as a person, right? So like somebody can go, oh yeah, I know Zach, but they couldn't tell you anything about Zach, right? Like I know the name, I know what he looks like, but then there are people who can be like, oh yeah, I know Zach, like he's a musician, he's he enjoys acting, he all this stuff, and those are the people that like I would encourage people to go find, right? And this 8 point something, but maybe your group of friends is not even in the same town. Like they might be in a whole different city, a whole different country.
Sure. Awesome. I mean, so last question just to kind of like wrap everything up. So like what are some of the goals that you have like moving forward just with your business, your brand? Like what are some of the aspirations that you have, you know, for yourself and the brand just in the next maybe couple years?
I would say for sure establishing like a strong customer base, because I like we are a startup, so I don't want to put out this like I said, there's a lot of gurus who will lie about the numbers and say like they're doing well. We are a startup, so like we're I'm still in the phase of exploring like what works and what's not working. So I would say within like the next 2 years, just making sure I stick with it. Like that's the biggest thing. Because it some people don't crack the code until 5 years down the road, you know. Um, so that's really one goal. Just making sure I stick with it, making sure that I focus on like well, actually let me backtrack. I would say figuring out what moves the needle forward, right? Because like there's a lot of people who will waste a lot of time on a task, right? Like they'll focus on getting their website to look beautiful, or they'll focus on getting the best logo, but they're not focusing on the things that move the needle forward. Like getting custom, you can have the best website, but if you have no customers, what's the point? You know? It's so I would say like figuring out, is what I'm doing moving the needle forward, or is it just keeping the needle in the same place and I feel like I'm making progress? Because there's a big difference. You can have motion and not go anywhere. That's being on a treadmill. Or you can go for a 5 mile run and like actually make some distance.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. That is definitely a great note to end on. I feel like people don't necessarily focus on those needle moving things enough. So that is a great point.
Yeah, I think it's important just to figure out like, am I making motion or am I staying stagnant?
Well, thank you so much, Zach. I just want to say it was great talking to you today. I really had a great time, getting to know you a little bit better, just kind of getting to know some of the things you're working on right now as well. So yeah, it was absolutely great to have you on the show, and thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for taking the time to have me on here. I appreciate it. And all you who want to start a business, take the jump. Don't be the guy on the cliff watching your friends fly.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this content, please be sure to share it with your friends or leave a review. Comment down below to share your takeaways with others or just to say hi. Stay tuned for any updates, and until next time, stay motivated, be inspired, and don't forget to encourage others.